Hello, welcome to the Oldham Athletic Supporters Foundation AGM. All the directors are here, and our chair, Mr. Jim Booth, is going to lead proceedings. So take it away, Jim.
Evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'll just start off with a quick roundup of the things we've done over the last, it's nearly 12 months, I think, since the last AGM. What we've done, what we're currently doing, and what we plan on doing, dependent on us all being successful in the election. So the things that we've delivered this year, we've done the retro kit, sold a few hundred of those and raised over £1,000 for Oldham Food Bank. We raised funds for 10 season tickets for fans who otherwise wouldn't have been able to afford them in the 10 matches. And we've converted to a CBS. It was voted on at the last AGM, but we brought that through to fruition over the course of the last year. So that's the things that we've delivered in full so far. And the things that we're doing at the moment, we've got Lattice Lift, which a lot of you have probably seen advertised. We sent a statement round to all our members. That's going to grow as it goes. It's a case of just it's in a trial period at the moment, just to make sure that there's interest in it and it will work. Over 30s football sessions, which start next week. Is that right, Mick?
Yeah, next Thursday.
Yeah. The season tickets that I've already mentioned that we've got for fans in need, we're going to expand that scheme out. Hopefully in time for half-season tickets, and obviously we'll have to refine the process a little bit and put some parameters in place on who gets them and stuff like that, and improving our offline presence. So we're all over social media, and we put out a fair few statements and emails to our members, but on a match day, we kind of don't exist. So I've been working on that with Mark. We've got permission from the club to put a stand somewhere in Boundary Park, as yet not confirmed where, but we've got permission to put it there. We'll be distributing leaflets. Got leaflets. We've got pin badges for members that we'll be distributing as well. And just so that people, a bit of visibility, people can come and talk to us, give us their ideas, maybe offer to volunteer if we're lucky. That's the stuff that we're working on right now. And then the stuff that is in the pipeline that we haven't started working on yet, but we've got plans in place. We want to work with the club to put a fan park at Boundary Park, which is something we're all pretty excited about. It's a big project. It's likely to go next to the Chaddy end, where the Clayton used to be. Beyond that, we haven't got sort of a specific scope for it yet. It's going to be a fan park. It's going to have community facilities running from it through the week if we can make that work. And that's all we've got at the moment. It's not a case of because we didn't want to go ahead with it yet. We just wanted to make sure that the club were on board with it before we went anywhere with that one. We're going to release some more merchandise. I'm afraid it probably won't be as good as the retro shirts, but I'm sure it'll be all right. We're going to put some events on, as yet unscheduled, but we're going to do that to fundraise. Obviously, we need money to deliver a fan park, so we're going to have to do that. And improving our membership offer. So we've started charging for membership now, so we're going to try to add some additional benefits. At the minute, you get 10% off in our shop. There's not much in there at the moment, so the merchandise will resolve that. We're going to be giving out pin badges, and we're going to try to get some offers from companies in Oldham that apply to Oasf members. So that's sort of a quick whistle stop of what we've done, what we're doing now, and what we're going to try to get done in the coming months.
I think what's important to mention, Jim, is that our direction has changed a little bit in terms of what we're about. I think we still are in place to try and safeguard the club. We still have a seat on the board, and we obviously we want to watch what's going on at the football club and be involved as much as possible in the way that the trust of OASF always has been. I think it's pretty obvious that the club is being run better now than it has been for a long time, which means that there's no like imminent panic from our point of view. But that doesn't mean that we don't have to sort of keep our eye off the ball, take our eye off the ball, and in that sense. But we're in a very new phase. We're building a relationship with the club, which is starting to. I think we're starting to get a much better understanding of each other over time. They've been brilliant with us. The relationship is definitely growing. But we want to raise money for those dark days, just in case they come, because we've learned that lesson. And also, we want to be able to raise money to try and contribute towards the experience at Boundary Park for our members. Because as a CBS, as a community benefit society, you, our members, and the community of Oldham and supporters of Oldham Athletic are the people that we are taking on the responsibility of serving. So it kind of opens us up to some different opportunities. And one of the things that we don't want to do while things are so good at the club is disappear into obscurity again in the background, just in case we are needed again at some point. We need to try and make sure that our presence is always there, is always relevant, and gets more involved as time goes by. So it's like we've reset ourselves really in terms of who we are. We're starting again in many ways, and it's going to take a long time, but it's exciting that we've got a consistent board now, a steady board of people who are all very much on the same page. And I think probably over the next year, one of our main priorities, along with the stuff that Jim's mentioned, is getting everybody as a fan base on that same page and understanding who we are and what we're trying to achieve for our members, and getting members involved in that process so that OASF gets stronger. The director that we nominate to go on the board has more members behind them to represent, and that's kind of where we're at. We're at that process, aren't we, of like clean slate for OASF, and new responsibilities, new challenges, and trying to get everybody on board with that, the club, the supporters, and just the town as general, because we represent Oldham Athletic supporters. We've got something like Oldham Athletic Community Trust, which represents Oldham Athletic in the community. That's different to what we are. We represent Oldham Athletic fans, and they are our community primarily. So what we are going to be doing is things that are directly benefit our community, the supporters, things like the over 30s football, things like the season tickets that we're raising money and giving away, things like fan park and facilities. There's loads of things, the Latics lift. Like what we're trying to do is raise money and work on projects that directly benefit you as supporters of Oldham Athletic, and that will hopefully keep us front and centre and relevant and important at the club and amongst the club board and the supporters. So I know it's quite difficult if you're not paying as much attention as obviously we do to who we are and what we're all about, but the next 12 months I think is going to be really important in trying to sort of make sure that, like Jim said, with the offline stuff and our presence, so getting you all on board with what we're doing and getting you as excited about it as we are.
I think it's important that it's not just us as directors doing everything as well, and that we want to bring everybody along with us, helping us, either on projects or events or whatever. And we've got limited time. We still put a lot of time in, but there's a whole wealth of talent in our supporters base, and everybody doesn't want to commit to be a director, but would be willing to help on certain projects and if we have an event or whatever. And I think that was sort of shown in the Legends match. There's a tremendous amount of support, I think, went in. It's things like that it's not just about us. We can lay the sort of strategy and set projects up, but everybody needs to come along with us.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think it's a good time to give a shout out to David and Joe Swain, for example, who've been volunteering with the shirts, Jim. You've worked really closely with them, haven't you? And it's been massive help, isn't it?
They've carried the project, to be honest with you. I mean, Joe did a lot of the design work on the shirts and the ads that we put out for the shirts. And it was very patient because obviously we had to change them several times because worrying about Umbro potentially and not liking the way that they looked and stuff like that. But he's been brilliant. Never complained about the amount of work he had to do or anything like that. Eager to do it. And David has run the entire sort of distribution element of it on his own. So anyone who received one of the shirts will have sent like a little business card in saying thank you for supporting Oasf and a little sticker. He's done that off his own bat. He's decided that would make it a little bit nicer for the person receiving it. So we got all those shirts delivered to David's house, and he's manually, one man, gone out and distributed all those, sometimes in person, sometimes via post. And I can't thank him enough. And he also runs our lottery. He's an absolute workhorse, and that's the type of volunteer that you couldn't pay someone and have them do a job as good as that. But ideally, if you want to volunteer and you can take a project and say, yeah, I can do that, and just do it, it absolutely, it provides so much benefit to us to move on and get other stuff done as well, instead of being mired in the same project for weeks and weeks and weeks.
And that's the benefit. The aim is to help your fellow Latics fans in whatever way, whether it's like travel or it's infinite really in terms of what we can do now. But really, like Maurice said and like Jim said, we do need people to help us deliver it. And it is a community thing, and communities come together and work together and do things together for each other. And that's what we're trying to achieve now with this community benefit society. So it's up to us really as a board to enthuse people enough to get involved. So that really is one of the top agendas for us: increasing memberships over the next 12 months and participation in the projects that we're trying to get off the ground.
Yeah, and our ultimate aims, if you were looking at it broadly, rather than individual projects, would be, as we've discussed between us in the recent weeks, it's investing in the fans, investing in the club, and investing in the community. So you're going to start to see that phrase around quite a lot, and I think that's what we need to do right now. We need to put our money where our mouth is, raise some funds, make things better for the fans. The community element of it is obviously to benefit the community, but also get the community more interested in Oldham Athletic.
Yeah.
And obviously we all want investment for the club, so that's why we're going down that route.
Yep.
Does anyone want to expand a little bit on the specific projects that they've been working on? Maurice, I know that you've led on Latics Lift, so do you want to just give a quick brief about what it is?
Yeah, well, basically, there's a few aspects to it. One is trying to get people to Boundary Park that wouldn't normally be able to get there, maybe age, disability, or whatever, for whatever reason, maybe where they live, transport links or whatever, and to get to put their hands up if they're sort of passing their door and offer them a lift. So it might be on a one-off basis that somebody sort of maybe a supporter who wants to go to a match or a series of matches, and we try to arrange lifts for them. With away travel, there's a whole plethora of things that we can do there in car sharing and whatever. And we're also getting feedback from fans that live in other parts of the country that are willing to band together. They may live in, say, the southwest and want to band together and arrange trips up to Boundary Park, so the car share or whatever, get a minibus. And we're getting offers of help from people that live in various parts of the country, saying, I live in, say, Birmingham. Are there any other people in the area that want a lift? I come up to Boundary Park so many times a season. So there's many strings to it. We're also getting a link up with Just Park, who are a parking app. We're going to provide us with details of parking venues around stadiums, and also the facilities in many cases to park on sort of residence drives for a small fee. So we'll be getting that set up. So,
Brilliant.
and then try to build a bit of social media around it, so that people can just get in touch with one another more easily. So we're just running it as a trial at the moment and getting feedback, but the initial signs are encouraging.
That's great, yeah, because I think it'd
think
be
one of
really
the-
beneficial, won't it, to the people who obviously need a lift. It'll be beneficial to them. Not only that, but if it results in higher attendances at Boundary Park from people who otherwise wouldn't have gone because of travel, then the club benefits from it as well. So I think it's a really good scheme.
I think it ties in with the other thing, which I think is really important, which is sustainability as well. You know, like there's no point 5 cars going to Boundary Park when one would have done or whatever. You know what I mean? And trying to make football sustainable and the environmental impact of it affordable as well, because it's expensive. You know, there's lots of things projects that we're interested in getting involved in, which champion affordability for football fans. You know, like that's another thing, another avenue that we'll be going down. Obviously, cost of tickets, cost of replica shirts, all that kind of stuff. You know, football demands a lot on supporters financially, and we're very keen to make sure that I'm not saying that the current board of the club are trying to take advantage of supporters, but as a whole in football takes advantage of supporters, and you know, we want to make sure that we're a watchdog for our particular supporters when it comes to that. So you know, it's there's lots, like I said before, there's lots of different things that we can do now. But I think about, you know, investing and sustainability and investing sustainably, I think, are things that are really important for the football club, just as a general rule going forward.
We're also, as part of Athletics Lift, trying to get some funding through the Football Supporters Association. I've just had an email today, you know, just talking about getting some funds in place that it can maybe help us expand the service or add a few more bits and pieces to it. So hopefully, and that's all around funds that are around in football and grants for sustainability. So we may be able to get more from that depending on the projects we're working on.
Oh, that's great.
And it's worth mentioning that Tony Dawson is happy to offer lists from Stafford. So if you are watching this, get in touch with Tony.
Get him on the list.
Get him on the list.
Mick, do you want to just give a quick brief on the over 30s football sessions, where they're going to be, when they're going to be, and stuff like that, just in case people haven't heard about it?
Yeah, well, we're going to start next Thursday. It's at 7-8, Broadfield Primary School. Over 30s, totally free of charge. We're meant to put it together with support of Unathletic Community Trust and Just Play Football, I think sponsored by the Football Association. But anyway, the bibs, balls, everything's free of charge, all brought in as part of this relationship we built up with the Community Trust. So, born out of just the notion that, you know, people enjoy playing football, but maybe when you get to about 30 or in your 30s, you know, don't want don't like the kids running past you, all the rest of it. And so anyway, it's just a kickabout. There's nothing serious about it. It's just a bit of a crack, really. I might roll back the years and play like I did when I was over 59. But yeah, so 7 o'clock, Broadfield Primary School. It's near George Hill's Timber Merchants.
Brilliant. Okay, I think that covers off in detail what we've been doing and what we're all about at this point. So at this point, I guess we'll move on to just a quick run through some of the detail of the accounts from Paul. They've already been circulated. Let's get a bit of detail on them.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, the accounts are published up until the 13th of January 2023, which is obviously a slightly shorter period than last year, and that's obviously related to the CBS conversion that took place on that day. So these are the sort of final accounts company under Companies Act. As from next year, the accounts will be prepared under CBS regulations. So that's why the year-end cut-off looks a bit unusual. In terms of sort of financial performance, obviously, 2 years ago, the foundation turned over £314. Last year, almost 23,000, and this year, almost 69,000. Obviously, a large portion of that was around the Legends match. It was held in June, so there was a lot of income in the sort of April, May, June, leaking into July period. Slowed down a bit after that, but obviously 68,000 is significantly more than we've ever achieved in the past. Unfortunately, that does bring with it a tax bill, and that's another reason why we've converted to CBS. We do get some tax benefits from being a CBS. So although there will still be some tax liability, that should be mitigated a bit by our status. So there's a tax bill of £11,000 pending based on the surplus that we made of 58,000 last year. That left us with cash in bank at the end of the period of almost £81,000, again up from 25,000 the year before. So, all in all, very strong financial performance for the foundation in that particular year. And obviously, moving forward, we've got a solid base. Jim's talked about new merchandise and other things that can come in, which will obviously hopefully generate income moving forward. And we are looking at other methods of fundraising around grants and community share offers associated with the CBS status. So that's just a quick run through. Hope that's okay.
Thanks, Paul. And Dom, if you want to just quickly run through, because voting is still open until 11:59, so if you want to quickly run through some of the details of what people are voting on, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I know a lot of people will have already voted, and I know we've sent quite a few statements out over the last month. But just for those who aren't aware, today is the last day that the voting's going to be open. As Jim says, it'll close just before midnight tonight. So there's 3 different sets of votes. The first is the election for this board. So with us becoming a community benefit society or a CBS this year, all of the board members have to step down or stand for re-election. So you'll notice that we're down to 7 now. 3 of the board members have gone, and we had got nominations for 8 candidates. So 8 of our members got nominated to stand. The 7 of us here, and then Chris Stringer as well. Because there's less of us than the number of seats available, so the maximum we can have is 10, and the minimum we can have is 6. Because there's 8 of us standing, essentially, everyone just needs to vote yes or no for whether they want people to stand. If more than half of the votes are positive, then the person gets elected. If there more people vote no than vote yes, then they won't be elected. It's pretty much that simple. So there'll be an email from Election Runner, but the title should say All North Lake Sports Foundation in your email, and there should be a link there for you to basically vote for the board election. But then there's 2 other separate votes, which you can vote for separately, which you'll have got the email for that one from me yesterday. These are more sort of administrative things that we need to vote on to do with being a community benefit society. So the first thing is about an amendment to our rules, which is about changing our financial year. So when we submitted our rules, which are like the equivalent of sort of articles of association for a community benefit society, when we submitted those rules to the Financial Conduct Authority, all our documentation said that our financial end of year was going to stay the same. It was going to end in January. But the model rules that we made with the Football Sports Association said end of June or end of July. So what we're basically this vote is just to propose replacing that June or July date with January to reflect the our actual end of year date. So it's just an administrative thing. Our end of year, after we spoke to the Financial Conduct Authority, is actually still January. It's just that our rules are a little bit confusing and contradictory at the moment, and might give people the wrong idea. But because it's a change to our rules, we need at least 75% of the vote to be positive for this. If it is, that'll pass, and we'll submit a change to the Financial Conduct Authority, and it'll just tweak it. We shouldn't need to amend our rules again unless there's anything else that comes up before the next stage yet, but we're not planning to. And then the last thing is a regular item that we'll have to do at every AGM now that we're a community benefit society. So that's about whether we have an audit on our financial accounts for next year. So every year at our AGM, we'll have to decide whether we want a full audit of our accounts, which means that a professional auditor will go over our accounts and make sure they're 100% accurate. Or we can vote for an independent examination of the accounts, where we'll get someone independent, like an accountant, rather than an auditor, to look at our accounts and basically perform a similar check to make sure that and verify that they are accurate. It's essentially up to members which one they prefer. An audit is more comprehensive, but it's a lot more expensive. For that reason, we got a quote from the FSA, so the Football Sports Association, today, saying that it would be between £3,000 and £4,000. We think that's a bit too much. It's not really cost effective, so we're recommending that members vote for us to disapply that for this year. That'll just be for this year. We can look at it. It'll be voted on again next year. But at the moment, we're recommending that we disapply the audit requirement and just have an independent examination from an accountant.
Just for comparison, Paul, how much did it cost for us to have our accounts reviewed by an accountant this year?
Well, I mean, it's a slightly different process, as I say, because that was sort of Companies Act, and she just worked with the information I gave her. She did ask some questions, but it wasn't a particularly onerous examination. But I mean, that just cost a couple of £100. I mean, an independent examination for CBS purposes, I would estimate, would be sort of 1,000, 1,500 maybe, which is obviously still a lot cheaper than £4,000 for a full audit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this vote is quite, it can lead to a reduced level of scrutiny of our accounts. The bar for passing is quite high, so this one is like an 80% majority needed to pass it. But as I say, the information's in the email that I sent around yesterday, and there's a link there for you to vote. If you have any questions, let us know before the deadline. We'll try and get you an answer.
Thanks, Dom. Okay, we'll move on to the questions that we received. We did get quite a lot of questions, but they all came from the same person. So I don't know if anyone else had any, maybe pop them into the comments now so we can answer those at the end. But I'll just go through the questions that we got and we'll answer them here. I am reading them from down here, that's why I keep looking down. What are the current membership numbers, and how does that compare to before the introduction of the annual fee? So prior to introducing an annual fee, we had over 1,000 members. I think it was 1,130 something. Now we've got 229. Obviously, we've only had paid membership for a few months, and we've not really pushed it very hard. So we can improve on that. I think we can get back to 1,000 if we make the membership offer attractive enough. And obviously, some of the stuff that we've got coming up, I would hope, would encourage people to pay £1 a month to contribute to that. Another factor of it is obviously something free is always going to have better uptake than something that has a charge. And things are looking good at the club, so people tend to not be as particularly interested in the stuff that we do once things are looking good at the club. So yeah, that's dropped. But we're confident that we can bring it back up. It's just a case of getting these projects off the ground properly and making sure that we push memberships a little bit more. And the next question is, has there been a dramatic fall in donations since the takeover last year? Yes. Same reasons, I assume, as with the membership dropping off when we introduced the fee. If people aren't terrified that the club's going to fold, then they're not going to contribute as much money for a fund that potentially saves the club from folding. It just makes sense, I guess. We still do have a fair few monthly contributors, so not everybody's cancelled the payment, but we do have quite a lot of payments still coming in. But the mitigation of that is that's why we're trying to introduce merchandise and a better membership offer, because when it's not a time of crisis, people are a lot less likely to just give us money to help us out. We're going to have to offer something in return, and that's what these things are supposed to be for. What else have we got? Any future events planned for fundraising? Like I said at the beginning, we don't have anything specifically planned. We do plan to put some on. We just don't have anything in the pipeline just yet.
I think it's worth mentioning, Jim, that there's two pots of money currently. There's the 1895 fund, which is effectively the rainy day fund, or the investment fund, or there was a few different options for that fund. And then there's running OASF fund, the fund money that we need to put things on and organise events and create merchandise and all that kind of stuff. So we do need to operate. We need to keep both things going. The rainy day fund, if you like, is probably not as crucial right now as it was. But the more money we have in the other pot that we can spend, because obviously that money in the 1895 fund is not for spending; it's kept away, and we want to keep topping that up. But the money in the other fund, that's how we speculate. We need that money to spend, to organise events, to cover our costs, to improve our website, to market effectively to our members, to do all this other stuff, which is going to raise our profile. We can use money towards the season tickets that we're providing, putting money into Lattice Lift, whatever it is, all these other projects. So we still need that contribution from fans. Memberships is the best way because we get that. You pay your £12 and we get that. So we will be looking to set targets every month for new membership, for new members, for new sign-ups, so that we can grow our pot of money that we can then use to invest in OASF and make it bigger and better and deliver more. So if we want to do what we want to do, we're going to need steady, regular investment from you as supporters, and that'll be through fundraising and through memberships, as well as obviously raising money through grants and whatever else we can do.
Yeah, definitely. If we can set a bar of a certain number of members and know that we've got that income coming through, then we can focus our efforts on projects, and obviously know that we're not going to run out of money putting a project in place that's going to eventually at some point raise more money. It just removes some level of restriction from us. Let's move on to that. Like I said, we've got no specific events planned, but we are going to do some events. Do the board of OASF believe that their seat on the club's board is effective, and is there anything that can be done to improve the role as fans' voice? So at the minute we don't have one because Darren did not run for election, but I think it was relatively effective. The problem that it holds is it's a tricky position to put somebody in, because they're required to keep what's been discussed with the club private, even from us, and vice versa. If we're discussing something that we wouldn't necessarily want to put out to the club just yet, like a project that we're working on that's not ready to go out or anything like that, then we would expect the same in return. So even though they're part of both organisations, they can never really reveal everything that they need to reveal to either side. I think, I don't know if everybody agrees with me on the board, but I think the best way to remedy that would be with some kind of agreement between the foundation and the club, that the board rep is allowed to discuss the things that they discuss with the club with us on the board, just so that we know what's going on, like an NDA or something, so we can just understand the situation at the club a little bit better. I don't know what everybody else thinks of that. I think
Yeah, I think it's a really difficult position, and I think like it's all about trust between the two boards of directors, and I think that's where we're sort of starting again. And I think one of the other things which is really good is building up this relationship outside of that relationship. That one relationship isn't the only relationship. It's important that our board knows the club board, and that we're not sort of strangers, and we do meet, and we have met, and we do need to meet more. And I think the more that we contribute to the club as an organisation, the more we will get back from the club in terms of information, trust, etc., etc. And that's why we're trying to improve our influence, I guess, and our stake in the club, so that we have greater access as an organisation to information, which, in a worst case scenario, could help us keep the club afloat, and in the best case scenario, just help us contribute to the club where it's needed, because we can't be asked to just give money and energy and all this just blindly. There has to be an understanding that we want to contribute, but we want to know what we're contributing towards and why, as an organisation, and as members, you vote for us to trust us to manage that relationship with the club, and represent you. And I think that seat on the board is important. I think this is where membership numbers and the seat on the board directly relate to each other. If we send somebody into the board representing 229 members, which they are doing currently, or they will be doing when we represent when we put forward a new director, that's one thing. If they go in and they represent 4,000 fans, that's a different thing entirely. And I think that's where it's really important, where as members, you sign up and you say, look, we have a director on the board of this football club, and as and when it's relevant and when it's important, when something comes up, you give that director a lot more power in the boardroom if that person represents you in your thousands. And that's where that's where we want to head towards. We've never had that. We've never had that many members. The first target is obviously 1,000. When we get to 1,000, the next target will be 2,000, then it'll be 3,000. We want to have that kind of number, so that when the board of Oldham Athletic look at our representative on the board, they see thousands and thousands of Oldham fans, and that's where it works. So that's how we become a stronger unit, stronger than we've ever been. We've never been strong, and it's not because we want to go against what the club are doing or against it's not that at all. It's just making sure that fans' views and considerations are at the heart of the decision making, and the best people to do that are fans. The best people the people who know what those things are supporters, and as your representatives, we hope that through our communications with you as fans and the members, we'll be accurately be able to represent that in the boardroom. So that's why we want you to sign up as a member, and that's why the seat on the board, in my view, is important.
I think it's worth pointing out in connection with that, though, that we do have monthly meetings with Darren Royal. So that's another form of communication that we have, not directly in a board meeting, but just as a sort of operating type meeting.
Yeah. And they've been really good, haven't they? They've been really, really they're progressing. These seem to be getting better, and we seem to be on the same page more frequently as each month passes, which is really encouraging.
I think those meetings are as important as the relationship with one person on the board as well. So,
yeah, I'd agree with that too.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the next question. Both Frank and Darren have in the past mentioned about further investment from outside the club. Do OASF know of any interested parties, and are OASF at any point considering that they may wish to increase their shareholding in the club maybe through the issue of community shares. Yes. We were speaking to a potential investor prior to the Rothwells coming on board, and he continued to speak to us after they'd come on board, and he's been a guest at the club since then as well. He's still interested in investing in the club, as far as I'm aware. I've not spoken to him very recently, and I'm sure that if the Rothwells had a suitable project and the deal was good, he'd be interested, because he's become quite engrossed with the club from what I've picked up from speaking to him. What was the next part? I've lost the question on my sheet. Sorry, guys.
About the increase in the fan shareholding in the club.
Yes, we absolutely want to increase fan shareholding in the club. We might have come in a little bit too hot when we first mentioned this to the club, because we went in there saying ultimately we want to get 26%, and obviously for someone who's never met you before to come strolling into the room and put that to you, obviously it probably took them aback a little bit. It's something that we need to discuss with the club. You know, what's an adequate level? What do you think is a suitable level for fans to increase the shareholding? Because if we're going to be investing money into the club, and when I say we, I don't mean us 7 on this call, I mean as an organisation, because we might not be here next year. We might get replaced in the election. So when I say we, I don't mean we, us 7 guys. If we're putting the foundation's money into the club, then the foundation really should get something in return, because the foundation is a representative of the fans. So if we put £500,000 into a fan park, that's just figures that have come out of my head. Don't anyone go reporting that the foundation are putting £500,000 into a fan park. But we would expect something back for the fans. You know, the way that it operates and the way that the profits from it end up where they end up going is up in the air. You know, that can be discussed. But if we're putting money in on behalf of the fans, we would expect the fans to get something back out. Otherwise, we're doing what the previous trusts have done and just throwing money blindly. And it's not turned out well in the past, has it? I mean, what we bought tractors, academy equipment, coaches, saved up for a scoreboard and gave that away. Let's not do that. Let's get something back and strengthen our position. Not for the current board, because they're really good and we like them, but in 10 years' time, if they're not here, then whoever is here might not be really nice and good. And if we own,
and we don't want to be fobbed off, do we, again in the future? We want to be in a stronger position, as and when we need to be in a stronger position, if and when, and hopefully we won't. But we've learned, haven't we, through our experiences, that you can't take anything for granted.
Yeah, exactly.
It's easier to go from, let's say, like 10% to whatever it needs to be, 26%, or a majority. If it ever came to that, it's easier to do that from a higher point of view than 3% that we're on.
If you just imagine it, because I don't know, let's just go with a random length of 5 years from now. If the club's been sold and we've got someone like Abdallah owning the club again, and we are still 3% owners, and we've still got minimal. I know we've got more than we had, but it's not enough to make a dent if the club went under, and we still had the same amount of money. Can you imagine what, you know, from the outside looking in? Can you imagine what you would think? You would think they've failed. They've not prepared for this day, and we don't want to do that. We want to be prepared for anything.
Yeah,
we can do both. We can invest while things are good and improve things for fans while things are good, whilst keeping one eye on that pot of money for the future, easily, and increasing the shareholding in case something happens. Doesn't have to be one or the other. Let's move on.
And even if nothing happens, we've just invested in the club, so it's a win-win, really.
Yeah, it's not like we're going to be taking dividends out, is it? And if we did, we'd put them back. So you know, it's a win-win, I guess.
Are you on to the...
being a CBS?
Yeah.
Is that where does being a CBS require additional compliance, and has the board the skill set to undertake this? So yes, There's different requirements for being a CBS. Some of the board have undergone CBS training to get the specifics of that. We've got the support of the FSA, who have set up multiple CBSs in the past. Cooperatives UK. I don't know if we've heard anything from them recently. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but they've been very helpful as well. So the stuff that we don't know, we've got people that do know that can tell us all about it.
And also, we want people to get involved who have skill sets that we don't. We want to build a team. We're the directors. In no other organisations do the directors do all the work. That is just not the way it works. But unfortunately, it seems to be that in a football supporters trust, it is the directors that do all the work. But we want to grow the organisation so that we've got directors, we've got managers, we've got, we want to have an organisational structure. We want to have a progression path for people to step up into director roles. We don't want to be looking at, when it comes to an AGM, throwing out our net, just sort of hoping that we're going to catch a fish or two. We want to have like a progression, don't we, of people
like a
who
conveyor belt, a conveyor belt of future directors.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
we're going to do that by creating an organisation that is doing really positive work, is really enjoyable to be involved in, and it's run by a lot of people, so that it's not a massive burden on any particular individuals. That's what we're trying to get to. In the past, even now it's difficult to get people to step up, but that's on us. That's our responsibility now to make it a more appealing place to want to come and volunteer your time. And the fact that we're all right, three of our members of our directors have left this time, but that is with good personal reasons. I think we should probably take a moment to thank them all for everything they've done as well, because they've all been fantastic. But it's not been an unpleasant experience. And it has been an unpleasant experience in the past, not just for some of us, but for other people that have taken it on. And I've always said that I've got a lot of respect for people just for standing up and taking it on. But it is something that, as a fan base, if you've got thousands and thousands of fans, you should be able to gather tens of people together to help out. You know what I mean? So we do need to keep pushing that mantra that we do need more people involved in this if we're going to make it work.
Yeah, I do think it's worth mentioning though that the 7 people sat in front of you, at least until 1 minute to 12 today, has got a lot of experience, a lot of different fields, including 2 very well qualified experienced accountants. So, in terms of running a CBS, I think we've got a lot of skills. So, I think the answer to is yes, we have got the skills on board. So hopefully at 12 o'clock tonight, we'll still be there.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Right, we'll move on to the next question. What is our strategic plan over the next 3 to 5 years? I'm going to honestly say 5 years isn't particularly on the radar yet. Because, like Matt said, we are starting again. So it's a case of, in the short term, we're going to continue to set up shop the way that we've begun to already, providing services to members, benefits to the community, like the money we raise for the food bank. And in the medium term, that's where we're going to be looking to use some of the goodwill that we've generated, the membership money, etc., into some projects at the club, which obviously will lead into further projects if they generate revenue, or if we get something back in return for doing them. Then we'll just continue to work in that fashion and just keep investing in the club and the community and the fans.
It's very easy to get distracted by things. It's very easy to come up with like great big plans and ideas that are wonderful. It's another thing actually having the infrastructure in place to deliver them, and having, like I said, the people, the personnel, and all the other stuff, and the systems. And I think we've done really well, Jim. I think particularly Darren Mills, who's left, and Brad, in helping to like start building a more solid foundation at the foundation than we had before. But now that the club is in good hands, it's the perfect time for us to sit down and work out the detail of what we're going to do and start making those longer term plans. Over the last couple of years, we've not had that opportunity. We're literally having to deal with all kinds of nonsense, and we've now that we've got a settled board, or the core of a settled board, we can do it. We can start doing that planning and sort of laying down the foundations for this organisation in a way that I don't think we've ever had. Well, in this incarnation has never had the opportunity to do before. So I think, in a year or two, I think we will have a really good, solid long-term plan, and I think it will be with an eye on the next 10 years. I think that's really what we want, isn't it? We want we're not going to raise loads of money to a significant amount of money to grow our shareholding in the club overnight, or even necessarily in 3 years or 5 years. This is a long-term project. This is about the long-term future of Latics and of Oasf. And now that things are quiet on that front, hopefully we can get stuck into focusing on ourselves rather than being distracted by the club.
Delivering some nice things rather than fighting fires permanently. It's been a much more a much less stressful year than the one prior to it. Yeah. So I think we're in a good position to actually make some good things happen at this point.
And I think some of us were definitely frazzled after that period, and I think we probably needed to sort of back off a little bit, which I think we probably have. But I think we're probably a bit more fired up now and a bit more motivated as a group. Now we've got new people in, and that's the other thing about bringing new people in. It's really important because it fires you up. I put a message out in the WhatsApp group the other day thanking everybody and saying how much of a pleasure it is to have a board of directors where people are being proactive and going off and doing things and contributing, and who are good to work with, because it breathes new life into directors who've been involved for a couple of years, because it's tiring. It's you need new people to come in and energize the people that are there, and that's why we need people coming in and helping us keep the energy up for it has been in the past a thankless task, and credit to the people that have stuck it out over those years, because it has been hard work, but it doesn't need to be a thankless task, and it doesn't need to be like sticking pins in your eyes. And I think we turned that corner now, because on the whole, I think you'll all agree, lads, it's an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely nothing like what it was when we started. Okay, that's all the questions that we got in advance, and the only one that I can see in the comments is about lottery tickets from 725. We do have a lottery. It's with Club Force. If you go to www.clubforce.com and just put in Oldham Athletic in the search box, it'll come up with the Oldham Athletic Supporters Foundation Lottery. It's £1 a week to play. You can play as many lines as you want. The minimum jackpot's £500, and the jackpot currently is £3,050. So get on it. All the details are on the leaflet, which will be being distributed on match days from our kiosk. Hopefully from the first home game of the season, if we can get everything cobbled together in time and set up. So I don't see any other questions.
No.
Anyone got anything else to add?
Just make sure if you haven't voted, just make sure you vote, please.
Okay.
Get your votes and do both votes.
Yeah.
There's 2 links.
But yeah, definitely want to just extend again proper thanks to Gary Brown, Darren Mills, Bradley Knowles, who've all been involved over the last 12 months. Darren and Brad a bit longer. It's like the end of an era, Jim, me, you and Brad.
It is.
Getting stuck
We came in different times in my day.
Brad getting banned and all the Talk Sport and all the glory days, Brad's glory days. We're now free to argue with him on Twitter when he's calling for the manager's head and all this kind of.
I look forward to it with relish.
Yeah, but seriously though, the effort and the work and the things that people don't see, we see, and we know how valuable those guys have been. And thank you for your efforts, guys, and
Yeah, thanks
best
very
of luck.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah, they all had a lot of value, and they will be missed.
As it goes, going back to the old 30s football, Gary's carrying on volunteering with that, and without him, we wouldn't be able to do it because he's an FA level 2 coach, and without him doing it, we wouldn't be able to ensure to do it. So, a massive thanks. Even though he stood down, he's carrying on volunteering.
Yeah, he's
and
continuing
also
with the project, isn't he? So
he's got his veterans project, which has started off the back of his involvement as a director of Oasf, and so that's just fantastic. And he's doing really well with that. So yeah, if you are a veteran or you know any veterans who are Latics fans, follow that. You can I think if you search OAFC veterans, it will come up on social media. So yeah, it's all brilliant. It's been brilliant. Yeah, a relatively peaceful and enjoyable AGM, guys. As far as AGMs go, that is.
yeah, they're never super exciting, but I think we've got our point across, haven't we? So I think we can wrap it up there, can't we?
I think we can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
a lot, everyone.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a member. If you're not a member, sign up. Give you 12 quids.
Thank you. See ya.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Right, everyone. See you later.